Alrighty, hello and welcome back to the second round of the first ever Manifold TCG Player Appreciation Open. We're here. I'm Alex, of course,
and I'm Adam.
Joined by Adam,
Yep.
and we're excited to bring you a quite different matchup from that first round. We mentioned a little bit that we saw a bit of a race in that first round, but this particular matchup, I mean, obviously, we don't know how the cards have been drawn up quite yet, but I don't really think it's going to quite play out like that. And I think that has a lot to do with these two players' heroic characters. So you want to talk a little bit about what these heroes do and, what we expect these general game plans to be.
Yeah, so last round we saw basically the most aggressive heroes you can make. Here's a bunch of damage. I'm going to do it faster than you are. Here, we have two different slow strategies. On the top here, we have Lucinda, who has, here, and I'll pull them up.
Pull them up for people.
Athena Deity. And Athena says whenever you play a structure, you may activate a character, which, and an energy ability that isn't relevant for what I'm about to say here. Really, the point here is, when you play structures, you can do a bunch of little cool tricks that are kind of useful, or if nothing else, play structures to get ahead in terms of tempo.
Yeah.
Her other hero is Rama.
Yeah, and Rama, this actually plays super well with the Athena because it's actually going to put white counters onto support characters.
Yep.
So, a white counter, this is our first instance that we're going to see these color counters. And color counters are a relatively large mechanic in this alpha set of Manifold TCG here.
Yeah, so these counters, when you place them on objects, and then those objects are activated, you roll extra dice based on the counters that are on there. They don't come off or anything. They don't you don't cash them in or anything. They just make your objects better, and they make your objects roll more dice. And so the nice part about Rama here is Rama rolls a purple dice and a black dice, which is a little bit worse than a normal 21 pointer would do. But that first round, if you have an ethereal support, then Rama kind of also rolls a white dice, right? Because you activate Rama, roll purple, black, and then activate the other thing, roll the white dice.
Yeah, and you're
but then the next round, it rolls that white dice, and also the next white dice the round puts on. So it really builds up over time.
Yeah, you beat me to exactly where I was going there. Yeah, so we're going to see a lot of permanents enter the battlefield and get counters on them and be interacted with. She's going to be playing structures to be able to activate her characters, and those characters are going to be activating for extra value because of Rama. So I'm really excited to see what Lucinda's going to be cooking up. Meanwhile, on the other side, we have a very interesting hero, Chrissy Aran. One of my personal favorites, and she really warps the game. And why is that? It's because she gets to redirect any damage that is dealt to another heroic character. So basically, what she can do is she can prevent herself from being the first target. We talked a little bit in the first round about how important it is to select the appropriate target that you want to go after first in Manifold. Well, Chrissy really takes that choice away from your opponent, and it is shockingly powerful.
Yeah, because there's this thing where you kind of want to pick, do I put my stuff here, do I put my stuff there? Once you lock in on, I'm going to put this attachment on this hero, usually that's going to be the target that they go for.
Yeah.
Chrissy is a safe place to put attachments and color counters and a variety of other things. Plutarch is, and I don't even need to get there yet. Part of the goal here of most Chrissy decks is to put a bunch of meat in front of Chrissy that just takes damage and defends itself and is defensive, so that Chrissy, you can put time and effort into building Chrissy up.
Yeah, and you can be confident that she's going to reward you for that in the late game because she can't die first. And do not sleep on that energy draw one.
Yes.
It is a hugely potent effect for this exact type of strategy.
Yeah. If you're trying to go long here and you're trying to get the cards you need to make Chrissy bigger, energy to draw one is great.
Yeah, and, before we move on to his other general, Plutarch, real quick, I want to mention the vestige or the prestige that Chrissy has on, which actually gives her an extra 3 health as well. So it's actually going to make her even harder to deal with. She has Grandiose equipped on her. So it's going to give her an extra 3 HP and let her roll an extra red dice. A really effective Prestige here, you'll notice that it costs 6 whole heroic points. We mentioned earlier, you get 45 of these points to spend how you choose, and these Prestiges are one of the best ways to sort of round out that number.
Yeah, there's a number of there's like 7 point price points that exist in the first set here of Manifold for hero points. There's 45s, there's 21s, 15s, 11s, 9s, 6-point vestiges or prestiges, and 3-point prestiges. And so there's a number of setups you can do. Right, 21-21-3 is pretty common. You see it here from Lucinda, but 15-6-21-3 is pretty weird and rare.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons, which makes it I'm really interested to see how this goes.
Yeah. So maybe I think now is a good time to talk about Plutarch real quick, as our players are sort of getting off to the races. This, of course, says whenever an opponent activates a heroic character, you may activate him.
Yep.
So he's her. Sorry. So you could just. She just kind of activates for free. She's just good.
And energy to roll red. That is huge.
Huge.
There's in the first set here we have 2 different 15-pointers in each color. One of them activates to effectively give you another gem in each color, and then there's a 15-pointer that's just good. And so the red one here is Plutarch, and the stats on Plutarch are great, and you pay for that by not getting a second gem. So you'll notice that Lucinda starts with 4 gems in play, going up to 5 on round 1, but Jeremy is only on 4 in round 1, and that extra gem can matter a lot. So yes, Plutarch is good, and yes, Chrissy has 3 extra health, but the cost there is 1 gem around.
1 gem around, and that's a big deal. And I think that really kind of sets the stage for let's get into the actual game. So we can see that both players are developing pretty reasonably. We see a Daring Saboteur here on the field for Jeremy Hatfield. That's going to make sure
so good in this matchup.
We actually talked about this card at the end of the last round, if anybody stuck around. But this card is going to be really effective in this matchup. Obviously, Lucinda's going to be playing those structures to get the value out of her Athena Dite. So
and Rama, more important. Even more importantly, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's going to be a problematic card that Lucinda's going to have to watch out for. On Lucinda's side of the field, how is she starting to develop?
So Lucinda played a rapid deployment in round 1, which puts a blue counter on any character she controls. So obviously that went on Rama here. And then Rama activated to put a white counter on the rapid deployment. You'll notice here that rapid deployment doesn't have any dice in the little dice drop down, and that means when you activate it, it doesn't do anything. But when you put dice counters on anything, you can activate them, and then they roll those dice. So now rapid deployment, you'll see it sideways because it already rolled its white dice.
Yeah, and we can see that that 1 mental damage is just hanging out in Lucinda's pool there.
Yeah, so what I'm expecting here is Jeremy activated Daring Saboteur, did not sacrifice it. Jeremy wants to wait for next round when Lucinda activates Rama to put a counter on anything, and at that moment, Jeremy's going to then activate Daring Saboteur, sack it, kill whatever the counter went on.
Yeah.
And so, he didn't want to do it right now because he can get another red and black gem next round instead of just killing this rapid deployment. Because a big part of the cost of rapid deployment is that blue counter, and just blowing up the rapid deployment doesn't get the blue counter. That's kind of the point.
It's not quite as good enough value. This card we mentioned is a really good card in the matchup, and I think Jeremy somewhat reasonably has assessed that he can do better with this card.
Yes.
We can't see Lucinda's hand currently, neither can Jeremy, but I would be surprised if there were not a better target waiting in Lucinda's hand for the Daring Saboteur. Things like that, you never really know how much cards like Daring Saboteur are messing up your opponent with just cards that they can't play in their hand. Just being in play can be so disruptive for your opponent. So you really have to walk that tightrope of when it's good enough to kill a thing, when you've gotten your dice value out of the Daring Saboteur, and when you think your opponent is somewhat less likely to have a huge haymaker that you're going to have to deal with afterwards. Or maybe Jeremy has another one, so he can spend this one, a little bit more willy-nilly.
So something that we notice here in this matchup is when Jeremy spends 3 gems on Daring Saboteur, that's basically everything he's playing. Yeah. So he plays Daring Saboteur, activates both his heroes and the Daring Saboteur, resolves his dice, and then he's done.
Yeah.
So something that we didn't talk about last round is the concept of digging in. The last thing you're allowed to do, or there's 6 actions you can do during a round, during a turn, sorry. The most final of those is digging in. When you dig in, you get to shield one, putting a shield on one of any of your objects, but then you are done taking actions until your opponent you're just done for the round. Your opponent gets to take as many actions as they want until they agree that the round is over. Then everyone readies all their stuff and goes on to the next round. But that means Jeremy here gets to, play a card, activate, resolve like 3 dice. Jeremy's got like 7 or 8 actions. It looks like Lucinda has a number of other things to do because Lucinda has more gems, therefore can play more cards, therefore has more, dice. And the more cards you play, generally, the more dice you roll and the more dice resolutions you have, which means in these big, chunky mid-range matchups where people are playing 3 to 5 cost cards, you're going to notice that there's a lot less time spent per round rather than if you're playing 5 1-cost things, activating all of them, resolving all of their dice.
Yeah, and I want to make a quick note as we go into the second round here that most of that round, you'll notice, was spent with the 2 players sort of interacting between their dice pool.
Yes.
Right? The round started with both players sort of developing a little bit, activating their heroic characters.
And then it's down to dice.
And then playing that small ball game with the dice that we really didn't see a whole lot in the first match.
Exactly.
So
that's kind of where I meant to be going with that, and I didn't actually get there.
So this round, I think I want to focus a little bit more on the actual dice play between the players because, we can see as important as the cards that they're actually playing and the gems and the principles and the heroes that are in play, arguably more important is the dice that they're rolling and how they're actually going to use those dice to further their plans. Yep. Because in a matchup like this, right, in the first round, we were talking about red dice win. Red dice, what do they do? Damage. Yep. It's easy to imagine how we're going to win the game with damage. But these decks also have other very valid win conditions. I mean, they're going to win the game with damage.
There are other colors of dice.
Eventually, right? But you can use green dice to refill your hand and draw countless numbers of cards and just drown your opponent in advantage. You can use yellow dice to strip your opponent's resources, destroy their hand, and make sure they don't have any dice so they can't really do anything about it. And there's a whole modicum of different variations in between them. So
anyway, here's a chain plasma rifle.
Yeah. On that note, here's chain plasma rifle to kill you. So at the end of the day, you do got to kill them, right?
Yeah.
Every deck is going to, not quite every deck. As a matter of fact, we even have a one here that does not try and kill people with damage that maybe we'll get on stream later.
Yes.
But
chain plasma rifle is good because it just wins the game.
It wins the game.
I mean, it doesn't literally win the game,
but it does eventually. It's a key part to winning the game. It's just a very efficient damage for gems conversion.
Exactly. And one of the cool parts about these Chrissy decks is you're allowed to put all your aggressive stuff on Chrissy because they can't just then kill Chrissy and then you're out of aggressive stuff. They need to go through all of your other heroes to get to Chrissy.
Yeah, and one of the things I really, really like about Chrissy is that she has these sort of 2 dynamic styles sort of built into her. We see this Chrissy with the red package is playing the chain plasma rifle and things like that. That tells me that we're probably going to be doing a slightly more race-oriented Chrissy deck. I mentioned before that you can go for like this really greedy long game where you put the most ridiculous expensive, attachments onto Chrissy and you try to just win the game on turn 10 or whatever, and they'll never be able to catch up. Or you can force them to try to race through your other thing.
So Plutarch here says energy roll red, and that's the best rate on getting red dice you're ever going to see in the game, for the most part.
Yeah.
Which means there's a good shot that this Chrissy Plutarch deck, the game plan is you activate your hero, fine, I'll activate Plutarch, roll a bunch of red dice, use my energy to roll more red dice, kill you. Yeah. So here we go. Here's to get back to exactly what's going on right here. Lucinda plays Roaring Fire, which is a kind of neat card. When activated, you may activate any other Eidolon, which is a subtype of card. I'll get into what that means a little bit in a sec. Or another support character. This here is an ethereal structure, which means it, A, triggers Athena, and B, Rama can put counters on it.
Yep.
And then Jeremy just blew it up, because Rama activates to put a white counter on the Roaring Fire, and which means Jeremy has a good target.
Yeah, and at that point, it's just too much value to leave up for too long.
Yeah.
And so at this point, we're really starting to see the game plan from both players coalesce. We have our Chrissy Plutarch player, Jeremy, who is converting his gems into attachments into dice. This is a similar plan to what Bryant was doing, but it's a little bit more protected, a little less all in. and it's going to be a little bit better equipped to, I think, deal with the somewhat slower game plan that Lucinda is playing.
Here we have a perfect example of what just happened. Jeremy plays a Hidden Blade, which swiftly removes a shield off of Rama, and it is an attachment, so it rolls some dice. And Jeremy's sitting here with, what, 13 damage?
Much damage.
13 damage in a single hit.
What a roll.
Yeah, which means Rama's dead. Lucinda doesn't have any shields. Lucinda doesn't have any gems to spend on sabotaging stuff. Rama's just dead here, right now.
Disgusting roll.
Such a good roll.
Disgusting roll. He doesn't even have to discard his hand to kill.
And notice that this Hidden Blade being swift and then rolling a bunch of extra dice, what came out of nowhere. That's one of the cool things with swift cards, is you get to do something and then go again, breaking the back and forth nature of the game.
And it sounds like it's not that whatever. It doesn't sound all that powerful, but like I said, you really feel the tempo in this game.
Yeah.
Being
when
one
you're going
action
back and
behind
forth, it matters.
Can be the difference between your turn being amazing and awful.
Yes.
It really comes up a lot more often than you'd think. But we've sort of reached this point in the turn where our players have finished activating their heroes, they've spent their gems. Now we're at the dice resolution phase. So like I said, here with this rather homogenous roll here from Jeremy, he's just gonna throw the fire straight at Rama.
So you'll notice there that when resolving dice, you can resolve any number of dice, and so Ram was at 9, and so he only resolved 9 damage worth of dice to kill.
Yeah, it's worth noting that he cannot in one resolution do 9 damage to Rama and 4 damage to Athena.
Yeah.
You only get 1 target per resolution.
Totally.
And similarly, I guess I want us to take a moment to talk about Lucinda's plan. So we can see that she spent a lot of her resources developing additional cards, not just attachments, that are going to help her in various other ways. So, like, you see Oasis Mystic here. When it's activated, it's going to sabotage 1 if you control an Eidolon. We saw,
which would have been great with that Roaring Fire that's currently in her discard.
Yeah, but unfortunately the Daring Saboteur had other plans with that. And so now we're seeing that she's sort of developing a much wider plan.
Yeah.
Whereas Jeremy is going very tall. And I'm curious to see how she's going to try to convert her dice here. Because there are a lot of really interesting paths that she could take here. She has 2 modify on that purple dice there. Yeah. Which basically means she can choose how she wants to try to win this game. Yeah. There's a few options, if you don't mind. And the ones that immediately stand out are, do we have to race? The first thing that she has to ask is, do I have to race? Can I race?
Yes.
If she thinks she can, modifying the damage sounds like a pretty good plan. But there's a lot of other good options. She could modify to rend to make Jeremy discard his cards to try and slow him down.
Yes.
She could modify to draw to try, maybe she has answers to these attachments in her deck, but she just doesn't have them in her hand. Yeah. She thinks the race isn't going to be productive. Maybe we need to draw cards. So I think that this is a really pivotal turn for Lucinda right here. How is she going to try to convert what she has done this game into a game plan towards winning? Yeah. Because right now she feels a little behind.
I do think that Lucinda both can and should try to kill Plutarch this round.
I think I agree.
I don't think that's what's gonna happen. But there was a world where that modify 2. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lucinda's got 6 damage here. Honestly, I didn't actually count. I don't even know if it's possible to deal 8 with those dice. Either way, my point is, it would be really nice if Lucinda could kill Plutarch, and it looks like Lucinda's going to deal 1, 2. If Lucinda just straight up deals 6 damage to Plutarch right now, or deals 4 and then Jeremy digs in and then take off the shield or whatever, then next round, rapid deployment.
We'll actually
let her immediately at the start of the round activate a character, and then it's her turn. I guess that's only true if she digs in. Yeah. Okay, how about this? In the world where she does some damage and then digs in, then she'll be able to start of the round activate my Athena and then resolve damage targeting Plutarch and kill her.
Super good.
Which would be really nice.
I can't stress enough how important it is digging in first in some of these later rounds really can be, especially because it's so common where you have these game states where like there's a heroic character at low HP, either both players have one or just one player has one. This happens a lot, and it's so important to be able to put pressure on your opponent, to have lethal damage dice appear and just be sitting there, forcing your opponent to be able to have to spend every single time they get an action to defend. It's super powerful.
And right there, we actually saw a really interesting example of that. Jeremy had a 2 damage dice in his pool. and Lucinda didn't have anything else functionally, which means Jeremy had the option of either deal 2 damage to Athena, which would just remove the shield, and then Lucinda digs in on Athena, thus putting the shield back. You didn't get anywhere. Or don't worry about the 2 damage dice, just dig in on Plutarch. Now you've got your shield on Plutarch, and you don't need to, you can give, my point is you can give up dice in your pool to dig in, and at various points it becomes very important to know to do so.
I keep saying this tempo word, but the tempo there is really important. Yeah, it's shocking how, sometimes you just need, you've got 3 or 4 dice in your pool, and you, instead of drawing 2 cards and having them discard, you just dig in, because it's so important to be able to go first in the next round, because sometimes the round's going to end the next turn. A lot of times you get to the point where you're like, the game is over this round. So, like, it's just who's going to kill the other person first and how the interaction's going to play. And, man, that 1 shield plus having the first action can really make the difference a lot of the time.
So, speaking of speed, Jeremy is going to play Ambush. Ambush costs 3, puts a blue counter on one of your characters, and then activates it. And that's Swift.
All Swift.
It's all Swift.
All Swift. So...
yeah.
Huge tempo boost here, and we can see not the best roll I've ever seen from Jeremy. They're a little, and it looks like Jeremy really would just want damage at this point. I mean, he's really trying to finish the game.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be able to do it rather effectively. He's still got lots of cards in his hand because he didn't have to tactical reroll at all last turn because of that
just
nuts roll. And now we even get a little bit of interaction to remove that shield there.
Yeah, so air support just removes a shield from any object for 1 gem.
Shockingly powerful.
Yeah, it turns out it works pretty well. Jeremy is just trying to kill Athena as fast as possible because Lucinda's deck is an infrastructure deck. And I know we talked about this a little bit, but Oasis Mystic there sabotages if you have an Eidolon. If you don't have an Eidolon, it's kind of bad. And killing the Roaring Fire and then killing Lucinda as fast as possible means her cards are going to be slow and clunky and not really do what they're supposed to. And I think that's his primary game plan.
Exactly, yeah. And we can see just how important Jeremy's speed is going to become as Lucinda spends 4 mana for Rumble of the Grotto. 4 gems, excuse me, for Rumble of the Grotto here. And Rumble of the Grotto is just going to allow her to place a shield on her hero every time it activates.
And
so once
it's
an
Eidolon.
And it's an Eidolon.
For Oasis Mystic.
Huge play here.
Yeah.
So, we can see that, if Jeremy takes a little bit more time, and we talked a little bit about how both of these decks have a little more infrastructure. They aren't, we saw like full-on aggro. I didn't expect, Jeremy does have a little bit more engine stuff in his deck, though this is a particularly
Honestly, this is
aggressive
great.
draw.
I actually really like this aggro deck.
It's exactly where I think he wants to be in this matchup, though, too, because he's not going to go over this. Even with his more engine openers, right?
But he's just a little faster.
He's just fast enough. I think he might just be fast enough to get there. But
before Lucinda has enough board state.
Exactly. Though the gem count is really starting to add up, and these green decks, with those Emerald Mines, when they start getting in play, you start seeing cards like Rumble of the Grotto.
Yeah.
You start seeing cards like Ritual Circle. You
Big,
start seeing cards like Oasis Mystic.
Yeah.
These cards activate every turn. They're going to make it harder and harder and harder to deal with this Athena die. So Jeremy's is really racing against the clock here. He's got a lot of red dice.
Speaking of racing, here's Overcharge.
And I would be really surprised if we don't see Jeremy doing some tactical rerolls on this turn.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So Overcharge here makes you resolve physical damage, and it does it at +2, meaning it's kind of spend a red gem, deal 2 extra damage. And it's very, very rare in this game to spend gems to just deal damage to your opponent's heroes. Yeah. Overcharge is one of the very few examples of that. And so, of course, it's in Jeremy's aggro deck. That makes perfect sense. It was in both of the previous decks as well.
Yeah, and we're seeing red really sort of come into its identity here as the aggressive
and speedy.
And speedy.
Yeah.
It's taking swift actions. It's rolling dice. It is trying to dig in first.
Yeah.
It's trying to make sure it's always going first. It's denying you those shields. And, it's...
Even on Lucinda's side.
Yeah, even on Lucinda's side. And it seems to be really quite effective.
Yeah.
At least at a glance so far. So these red decks maybe are something we're going to have to keep an eye out moving further into this tournament.
So there's this really neat combination of interactions that Lucinda's deck can pull off. If she still has Rama in play, right? Whenever she plays a structure, she can activate a character. And so if you play like Roaring Fire, for instance, she gets to activate Rama, putting the counter on the Roaring Fire or the Rumble of the Grotto or whatever.
Yeah.
When she plays Rumble of the Grotto, she can then activate the Oasis Mystic, and there's your Eidolon to get the trigger. Like there's
I love all this.
Athena does some really neat things in terms of making sure that she gets to use her synergies before they get removed.
Yeah, so I think that maybe we're unpacking a little bit of the deck building reasoning behind this green-red deck here. We talk a little bit about how red is really good at dealing with tempo and making sure we can activate our things in time and not get run over. And it's playing a huge part in this game because Lucinda is able to keep up with Jeremy's tempo. Even though she lost her Rama already, she's still rolling. Look at all the dice she's rolling. She's taking damage, but she's keeping up on the tempo, at least for now. And, Athena allowing her to interact while she's playing all these expensive green cards for the late game, I feel like it's kind of like a bridge to really get her to her powerful engine that her support deck is trying to provide.
Like, just look at this. Jeremy has, 5 gems worth of support object in play, 2 of which are Hidden Blade, which is about 1 gem worth of, which is great. Lucinda has 3, 7, 9, 12 gems, right? If I count it right, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, 13 gems. Lucinda's goal here is to just go more and more, get bigger board states, and just not die. So if she can not die, she will eventually win. Exactly. That's the game. That's the bird's eye view of this game.
Yeah, because when she has 13 gems worth of permanence in play, needless to say, she's going to be doing a lot more relevant things. She's got so many dice worth of to roll because she has so many gems worth of permanence in play.
Especially once she kills one of Jeremy's heroes.
Yeah, especially once that Plutarch is down. Yeah. Then everything's going to be a lot more manageable. Then we're just looking at this Chrissy with some attachments. Athena, however, 7 life.
7 health is not much. Jeremy's done for the round in terms of rolling damage. Jeremy's got a shield and a dig in. I think she'll probably be able to kill Plutarch here, right? Because 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. So that's 1 shield, 1 dig in, 1, and then deal 6. Yeah. So that's not great. You want to know another kind of weird, interesting thing here?
Yeah.
There's a really neat game when it comes to trying to prevent Plutarch from rolling dice. Because if, at the start of the round, Lucinda uses Tactical Deployment to activate Athena, Plutarch triggers and gets to roll dice, even if Lucinda would then resolve her damage dice.
To kill, yeah.
So she can do, tactical, or, she can use her deployment to, activate Roaring Fire, which activates the Rumble of the Grotto to shield Athena before Jeremy gets to go, even in the world where Jeremy, dug in and therefore is going first.
Yeah.
Either way, she was able to get to Plutarch,
she got
so
the
now
Plutarch.
we're on... She's down 10 health, which is, a decent amount and is relevant. But she's got so much more infrastructure.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest here. I think if Jeremy cannot kill her this turn, he will lose. This round, he will lose for sure. So
unless he gets her to 1 or whatever, and then is able to Hidden Blade deal 1 damage.
I don't think he's going to get another turn. I'll be honest. Or another round. Yeah, I think that with Lucinda's overwhelming board state here, I think she's going to be able to convert it. It's possible that she won't. 17 is quite a bit of damage, but we saw her do 11 or 13 damage through some shields last turn, and she just untapped all of her gems
and got another gems worth of stuff.
So I really wouldn't be surprised if Jeremy does not get another round here.
Especially if Lucinda just rolls a bunch of 2 damage faces. That's great.
Yeah, and she's... I'm curious to how many cards each player has in their hand here, because that's going to become increasingly relevant to tactical rerolls.
Yeah, let's see if I can get round. I can ask the question to the table judge and see if they are able to figure that out.
In the meantime, here we see... Jeremy removing that shield off of Athena Dite. Obviously, 7 HP on Athena Dite. Lucinda needs to be very careful here. And this is part of the... In my opinion, one of the best things Jeremy can do to prevent Lucinda from actually killing Chrissy this turn is to present pressure onto Athena. Because if he's going to force Lucinda to spend lots of her resources defending Athena to not lose the game, she's obviously going to be significantly hamstrung in being able to kill Chrissy.
Yeah.
So
that card that he just played was Fragmentation Grenade, which took off the shield and then also rolls dice once he activates Chrissy, and that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Attachments, go big, but also deal some damage, remove shields, that kind of thing. There's this neat thing that you might be seeing here where Chrissy has 3 attachments on her, but also that blue counter. So that ambush that was played last round made Chrissy bigger while not being an attachment, which means he's allowed to keep growing, which is kind of cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting that the prestige that Chrissy starts with also does not count against the attachment roll.
Is that a weapons officer? That's fantastic.
I think that might be a weapons officer.
So weapons officer is a 4-cost character that Lucinda just played, which returns a support attachment to its owner's hand, and then deals damage to itself equal to the return card's durability. So really what this is it's a 4-cost that bounces a big attachment, or it's and then goes away. Or it's a 4-cost that sticks around but bounces a small attachment.
Yeah.
So it looks like it bounced the Chain Plasma Rifle, which has 2 durability, which means the weapons officer lives with 1 health. And Jeremy's forced to spend his gems again on that Chain Plasma Rifle instead of other things.
Yeah. And Jeremy already spent his gems. So he's actually just...
Well, I mean, he spent it to replay the Chain Plasma Rifle.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Yeah, because he had 3 and then...
Yeah. I missed that part. But
that means he's not doing anything else. He's not playing another ambush. He's not overcharging or whatever.
And because he had to spend that action to play the Chain Plasma Rifle again, it gave Chrissy enough time to develop this huge structure. And this has got to be one of the biggest win conditions. Lucinda. It's going to allow her to really start to take over the game. And this is sort of why I thought, maybe Jeremy might not be getting another turn here. With the ley line of the Great Rest entering, I think things are starting to look bleak from Jeremy's side, to be honest.
Yeah. Did Lucinda exhaust a druid? It doesn't look like it. So one of the I'm curious exactly how that works. I think she'll be exhausting the Oasis Mystic. Or no, she's just not gonna act. Oh, that's fine. So Leyline Great Rest has 2 modes. It comes into play exhausted, kind of, and rolls 2 dice, or it comes into play, rolls 2 dice, and exhausts a druid you control, and then activates for 2 more of its own dice. Yeah. And so Lucinda here decided that the Oasis Mystic rolling a pink and sabotaging was more valuable than effectively converting that to a pink and a blue.
Yeah, and I think I agree.
Which I agree. Yeah,
I think
totally.
that's a very heads-up choice here.
But it's just an interesting card that gave her a choice there.
Yeah, and it's good to see the players really taking advantage of these modalities of these cards. You know? We mentioned that a lot of these cards have do this or that, and every card can be discarded to reroll any 3 dice. So don't underestimate just how many options all of these players have at every given corner here.
So the dice game matters a lot right now.
So much.
So if you look, you see we've got 4 physical damage showing for Jeremy, and this Oasis Mystic is going to roll purple dice. I say pink or purple. It is purple. I seem to get in the habit of purple. And that's going to sabotage 2 of those damage. So Jeremy's got energy to draw cards or a bunch of shields or 2 damage. I think he's just going to be discarding his hand to reroll dice as much as possible, trying to hit.
Yeah, I think Jeremy has sort of realized that the clock is running out here as well.
So we've got 3 here. That's not 7.
Yeah, and
I mean, Lucinda doesn't have any defense.
Yeah, so if you're Lucinda here, is there any warrant to for example, modifying straight into shield right now before your opponent has the ability to put too much more damage into play? Obviously, your opponent has the 1 damage just sitting there, which is ready to ping off the shield. But when you're at 7,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
You know. So
there's this neat thing where Athena here has an energy ability I didn't talk about before, but now I will because it matters a lot.
Now.
Use an energy, resolve up to 2 dice as though they showed physical damage. So that means your 1 draw or your 1 modifier, your 2 rend or whatever can just turn into damage. I don't think that's where we're at right now, but if Lucinda thinks, okay, Athena's taking 5 this round, but I can deal 13 back, that's probably where she wants to be.
Yeah, that's what I think, at least.
Because remember that tactical deployment or rapid deployment says start of the round, activate an object, That activates Roaring Fire. That activates Rumble of the Grotto. Lucinda can start the round with like 4 or 5 dice in her pool, meaning if she gets Chrissy down to like 2, she can just be like, I'm killing you unless you do something defensive. And turns out defensive, not exactly what this deck does.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like... The defensive package is all in the heroic principle, right? Is all in the heroic and the prestiges.
Yeah.
The support deck is very much on the aggressive plan, it seems like, here from Jeremy.
So this is going to be a very close ending to this game.
Really close, yeah. So let's see how are players choosing to really resolve these things. We see Jeremy putting a shield.
Well, he had a shield too. He just had a shield too,
yeah.
which means a shield 2 objects, which means he's going to pick something.
Gotta pick something, might as well. Probably not going to be super relevant in this game.
But to roll some blanks, but that's okay. They'll get re-rolled.
Yeah, for the rest of Jeremy's dice, we see 1 modify, draw a card, and 2 energy. Jeremy can draw a lot of cards, but I don't know if the cards are really going to get him out of this. I mean, he's just so far behind on board. I don't really think a lot of cards in his hand is going to help him very much. Yeah. He's gonna need a real miracle. These dice really didn't land exactly where I think he wanted. I
mean, he could draw like ambush, and the next round just go. But he needs to not die, and Lucinda has a lot of potential damage. Remember that the purple dice here has 2 damage side on it, sure, but it also has a 2 modify side, and any colorful dice, meaning not black or white, can roll 2 damage on it somewhere, which means if Lucinda rerolls that 1 purple energy and gets 2 modify and then uses this 1 red modify, that's 6 damage right there, plus the ones that exist. She can probably chunk Chrissy down for like 8 or 10 damage right now.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy's actually on the ropes.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how Lucinda prioritizes this modify here.
Yeah.
So one of the, there's always the kind of fun play of like, I'm going to modify my purple die or my purple dice into modify 2 to try and get the extra squeeze value. But here, I don't know if we're really going to be doing any of that. I think, honestly, if I was Lucinda here, I would start using that Athena Dite energy ability to start resolving dice as damage.
Yeah, and look at this. Jeremy modified into shield. Jeremy realizes what's going on here. Yeah. He realizes that he needs to be defensive now and not just lose.
Yeah, he's concerned that he will just lose the game this turn, which I think is very, very valid. So.
This round is probably not possible. But you're right. Getting down to 3 or 5 or whatever is still very bad.
Still very bad. It could easily become unrecoverable. So we see what appears to be Lucinda just trading back and forth with Jeremy here, pinging off the shield. He put the shield back on. Jeremy dug in. Yeah. Lucinda takes the shield off one more time, and now it's just all Lucinda from here. So she's going to have free reign to do
6 damage and a shield, looks like.
6 damage and a shield seems like a pretty darn good effect to me.
Yeah, put Chrissy to 9. That's not 4.
9 is not 4, but it, Jeremy's...
I think that Lucinda's out of cards in hand, just by the way.
It's close. That could be a big deal. That could be a really big deal.
Maybe 1 card, but when a little bit ago I got a table update that Jeremy had 6 cards in hand and Lucinda had 4. And I think that was before Lucinda played 3 structures and then discarded that autonomous sentry turret.
Okay,
so
well, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a real photo finish here. We have Athena Dite at 4 HP with shield, Chrissy Aran at 9, not shielded, I believe. Mm-hmm. We've got the, of course, Lucinda's going to be able to activate one of her things at the end of the logistics phase with rapid deployment. So that's going to be a big effect here. We're going to have to see what she chooses to activate because there's a lot of good options here.
Yeah, there are. So activate Roaring Fire, which activates your Leyline Great Rest, is a pretty good choice. That's just as much dice as you can make for free, quote unquote.
Yeah, so she just went for the full-on dice approach. There's a world where Athena Dite doesn't have shield here, and maybe she wants to lead with her Rumble of the Grotto.
Yeah. But it does. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Start the round, just activate my board, here's 5 damage. You're at 9, here's 5.
Very impressive.
So it looks like we have 10 minutes left in the round, which shouldn't matter.
I think this
game is ending before that matters.
Yeah, I agree. But now you can see why we do have best of ones here in the Manifold TCG oftentimes.
There's plenty of play back and forth. These players have what in like other games would be, sideboarded cards in their main deck, like a Weapons Officer, because the game just supports it just fine. And remember how I said that Jeremy could just have like a bunch of ambushes or whatever in his hand? Turns out, here's ambush.
Here we are, yeah.
And Athena's at 4.
Looks good too, but that one shield on Athena is huge here.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. So yeah, you're right that it's huge, but also Jeremy has 4 damage.
Yeah, we got the Rumble of the Grotto activation here.
Yes.
So that's going to delay the inevitable just a little bit.
Yeah.
And
I think that Jeremy squeaks it out just barely.
Yeah, I think we're going to need to see a little bit from Lucy. Well, so here's what I'm thinking. We go Rumble of the Grotto activation, Jeremy pings off the shield, then we go Oasis Mystic activation, sabotage the 2 damage.
Then Jeremy's down to 1 damage.
Now Jeremy only has 1 damage showing.
So he can like discard to reroll a couple times.
So, and then we're talking. Ooh.
So Federation Arborealist is great here.
Huge play.
Healing 2. So this is the most heal for cost in the entire game right here on Federation Arborealist. And spending 2 gems to heal 2 and also get a guy that you can do stuff with is great.
Yeah.
No, so that means Athena's not just dead. That heal 2 means Athena's not dead, and Lucinda gets to keep developing her board state.
Exactly.
It's going to be another... there's another Federation.
Oh, no, look away.
Back up to 4.
Aggro players in tears everywhere. Oh, no.
So that just ate 3 of Jeremy's damage dice. And Jeremy doesn't have any more objects to activate. No. If Lucinda can just eat these dice... It doesn't matter what Jeremy has or how much time he has or whatever. He can't make damage.
Yeah, and we still have the Rumble of Grotto activation. We still
the reroll hits 5 shield.
That's not what Jeremy wants. Still have the Oasis Mystic in order to sabotage a dice, and I'm pretty sure the only thing Jeremy can do at this point is tactical.
Yeah, just reroll a bunch. It looks like he doesn't have any or many support. Let's see, how many support characters does Jeremy play? If any.
It's a good question.
Let's see, so... 1 Rapid Deployment, 2 Black Market Profiteer, 2 Talpet Enforcers. That would be a blast if he played that. Okay, 3 Lieutenant, 3 Docite Thug, 3... Okay, he's got a bunch of stuff. He just hasn't drawn it.
Yeah, it's just not the
He's got like
particular side
12-ish objects that activate for dice. Ooh, this is... Okay, so...
There's Jeremy with the forlorn stare at the dice pool. He knows what's coming.
I mean, he's just going to discard to keep re-rolling... Oh, interesting. He's keeping the shields. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, well... Okay, interesting.
This is a bold maneuver. So,
that was bad. That was terrible. That's nothing.
When Manifold gives you 5 shield, sometimes, you can try to just re-roll it all and hope to minus, but, if you don't have enough cards in your hand to be able to do the damage, maybe he just, he might only have 1 or 2 cards on his hand left. He can't realistically ever kill here. And, oh, no. Oh, this is brutal.
Lucinda played Leyline of Great Rest, which is going to exhaust one of those Federation Arborealists, which the whole point of that card was to heal. So if you can then turn its white dice into effectively purple-blue, Lucinda effectively played a 2-cost that healed 2 and rolled 2 premium dice, which is insane.
Unbelievably good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, really looking forward to that. Athena Wolf in chat, thank you for stopping in. Join the narrative. When is LL playing on camera? We'll try to get her in the next round.
Yeah, actually.
Look forward to that.
We're trying to pick interesting matchups, and interesting players, and so and that LL is
fits the name.
Fits both of those.
I'd say agrees with both of those things. So, back to the real dice scramble that is going on.
So Oasis Mystic is going to eat 1 more of Jeremy's dice when activated sabotage 1. And Lucinda's just going to roll all her dice.
Yeah, she's just trying to get as much damage into place.
I would be incredibly surprised if she doesn't find 9 damage.
Yeah, we see
Jeremy might
4,
still
6, 7 in play.
There
already.
is a world where Jeremy squeaks out a win here, but Lucinda will count to 9 this round.
Yeah, actually,
it might be slow, but it's already there.
Well,
right?
as a matter of fact, she has 9 already with 2 modifiers. 8 damage showing with 2 modified.
Yeah, she can just resolve modify 2, turn that yellow and red dice into 2 damage each, and then it's get there.
Lethal.
Which means Jeremy needs to do something fancy.
Yeah, he needs to interact and now.
Yeah.
He does have these shields, right? So he's not technically just dead on board yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to imagine that all of the things that Lucinda still has to activate, plus some tactical rerolls, plus the modifiers.
Lucinda still has 9 dice to roll.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So basically, it does from Lucinda's seed. Lucinda wins if she doesn't lose, which means she needs to do literally everything she can to not just lose here, which means rolling any dice that shows sabotage or shield. Honestly, modify into shield is not the worst idea here.
Not a bad idea.
Because she just needs to not die.
Yeah.
Of course, modifying to damage just to kill you is also very good. But
yeah. I think this is a little bit more aggressive line. I don't dislike it. I think there's a world where you modify into like sabotage there or something to just be
just
super
to make
safe.
Absolutely sure.
Yeah, because sabotage and damage kind of function the same against shield. No, right? So I mean, I think I would have liked to modify to sabotage.
No, I think just. So, that said, I think both ways work just fine.
Yeah.
And I think just go for the kill is very defensible.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to go wrong with damage in this spot, right?
Yeah.
You know, super marginal stuff.
So let's see. So Jeremy has 1 mental, 2 instances of 2 shield, and an energy, which he can use to draw a card in his pool. I think if I were Jeremy, I would have spent that energy to draw a card and then rerolled his blue dice as many times as he could.
Yeah.
I mean, he still can, but like,
yeah, it looks really dire from this point as Jeremy.
Jeremy technically could find 4 damage and get through a shield this round, but not before dying. Jeremy here played Spray and Pray though, which I will pull up. Spray and Pray says when activated, you may remove up to 3 dice you control to roll that many red, so he can just turn his like white, blue, probably. Yeah, into 3 red dice.
Well, that sounds pretty effective to me.
As we found in the last round, red dice kill people.
Red dice do kill people. And now we could see...
If he just rolled 6 damage here, like,
it's
suddenly... Well, no, it's not even, because Lucinda has a shield on Chrissy. All that needs to happen is resolve a bunch of damage, and then Jeremy resolves shield, Lucinda takes it off, and then... Jeremy is down 1 activation, right? Even if he had rolled 6 damage here, he still would have to spend an action taking the shield off of Athena, and then he dies on the crackback.
Yeah, so this is what when I said earlier that that one turn, that one I do a thing, you do a thing, that one action can be such a big difference because
here's the shield, here's take it off, and then Jeremy has to do something. He doesn't have shield showing, and Lucinda has lethal. Even if Jeremy had...
lethal
12 damage right here. 1 to take off the shield, and then he's dead.
Hey, you could have 100 damage here. Yeah. It's not good enough.
Exactly.
Right?
And so here we see this really neat point where Lucinda saw that, A, she didn't need to roll more dice, right? She had enough dice in her pool to just go for the kill. And because if she had just kept rolling like a bunch of like pink and red dice and stuff, she might have not had the time to just kill Jeremy before he squeaked it out. But similarly, that one action where... tactical deployment or rapid deployment activated the Roaring Fire.
Activated the ley line.
That's the one action. Lucinda was up by 1 activation, and that was a 1 free active. Like that matters.
It matters so much. Yeah. I kept saying it. I'm so glad that we finally got. Well, not finally. It took all of 1 round
right?
To be able to illustrate that. That's why I keep mentioning it's such a big deal. Is because it really comes up a lot. Where it's just slightly too slow. Mm-hmm. You can't kill the thing before they get to roll all the dice. You can't do quite enough damage. You can't remove the shield without dying.
Yeah.
And just like that, Lucinda with a fantastically played match, if I dare say so myself. I loved. I mean, that was a really good game. So we saw Jeremy off to an explosive start with the protection from Plutarch for Chrissy, and he really had a very, very scary Chrissy.
He absolutely destroyed Rama on round 2 before it could do much of anything.
Yeah, Rama was a non-factor.
Rama put a white counter on tactical deployment, put a white counter on a Roaring Fire, which got destroyed, and then died. That was it.
That was it, yeah. So
and still, Lucinda was able to build up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was sort of saying, where, whereas Jeremy invested his sort of win condition in the form of his heroic package, and he brought a support deck that's sort of going to amplify that. Lucinda, on the other hand, brought a support deck full of characters that is her plan to sort of build the engine and win the long game, and her heroic characters are simply here to enable it and support it a little bit. But her real main win condition is her support deck.
Yeah,
and
play a bunch of big chunky things.
Getting 15 gems worth of permanence into play and then having crazy synergies with them. And we saw how really effective it was between Athena activating the Rumble of the Grotto,
shielding,
the rapid deployment.
Honestly,
crazy
Roaring Fire, which says when activate another character you control, and rapid deployment
which starts off by giving you free activation, is really, really nice in terms of just
like this deck.
And like imagine the world where you start off by activating 2 Roaring Fires, which activate 2 other things, and then it's your turn, and you play a structure, which Athena then activates another character, and you're like, here's 9 dice, and go, you know, and activate half your board, pass.
I think I mentioned on the second turn of this game how Athena Diet was a really good sort of tempo catch-up play for this deck. How it's going to bridge her to be able to survive to play those more powerful cards, and boy howdy did we see it play out exactly like that. Because if she had been playing a slightly slower, even red general, but you know, heaven forfend, she's playing some greedy yellow card instead, she would have died so hard, right? But because Athena gave her so much tempo, the ability to activate in stride with Jeremy allowed her to keep up on the dice front, keep the shields flowing, and keep up with the damage, and allowed her to get there. 1 activation, just the nick of time.
I also love that the 2 Federation Arborealists healed Athena for 4, and Athena ended the game at 4.
Yeah,
like,
it really mattered.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I think we are going to be getting our third round running very quickly. I think we're going to take about a 2-minute break.
Yeah, just a couple-minute break here to get everything started for the next one, but we're going to get right back into it.
We'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be right back.
Yeah. 1 second.